What's up, guys? This is Jason Brickel with Range Recon and After the Match podcast. So we are here with Chase Lyons and Eric Lee from Sgt of Arms. We wanted to get into a little bit of a topic about, after the match PRS or Precision Rifle Series shooting. So we're going to get into a few topics about what your company, Sgt of Arms, does and what you guys make and what you guys do for competition shooting for different series and everything like that, and what kind of gear you guys use and what kind of stuff you do to prep for a match. I'll take it from here. Go ahead.
So, thank you for bringing us on here.
Absolutely.
I appreciate the opportunity to come out and hang out with you guys. So, we just got done shooting the quantified performance match in our arena training facility in Blakely, Georgia. Chase here, he finished fourth overall? Yeah, fourth overall with a stacked field of shooters. I came in 29th out of 91. I kind of had a rough day of shooting there, but it happens.
You have your good days and you have your bad days, brother.
That was a bad day. But it is what it is. Still had a ton of fun, hung out with a bunch of friends, stuff like that. But one thing we talked about at the match, and we get asked this a lot at these matches, is what makes a precision gas gun a precision gas gun? Like, you see some guys out there running just the run-of-the-mill AR type rifles, and you see where they finish, and then you look at the guys that are running those more purpose-built rifles for it, and they're finishing in that top 50, top 20%, winning the matches. One of our good friends that shoots for me, he's won. This is the second one that he's won out of their matches. So we'll kind of cover that.
That's a good idea. Let's break that down and really get into what makes
Jake, you want to grab the rifle?
a precision gas gun a precision gas gun. Like, a lot of people will understand, okay, what do I want? Do I want a gas gun? What kind of operating system do I want to use for a PRS match?
Yeah.
And I know you guys kind of specialize that with Sgt of Arms, so go ahead and break into that a little bit.
Yeah, so, as far as the gas system, I'm a jerk impingement guy. Not a huge piston fan for precision work. There's some things going there, more moving parts, weight, and you start getting some deflection when you start getting into some positions. I mean, there are some guys that run some piston guns that do fairly well.
So what about weight is it that you really want to focus on with PRS matches?
You want to take that one, Jace?
Well, the big thing for me is balance.
Okay.
I want that gun to balance. I want that balance point to be, right here in front of the mag well.
Okay.
So that when I get on a barricade of any sort, whether it's a T-post or, a 4x4 post or a 2x4 sideways or whatever it is.
Right.
So that when I set that gun up there, I want that thing to rest there without me having to put a whole lot of input into it.
Okay.
A lot of your non-purpose-built ARs tend to be back-end heavy, and so that gun's trying to kind of do this, so you're having to stay up under it. The less input you can put into that rifle, the better off you are.
Less effort.
The
easier it is.
Yes.
Obviously.
Yes.
It comes down to the less the guy pulling or person pulling the trigger can screw up, basically.
Right.
Yeah, the biggest factor is always what I say is the loose nut behind the trigger.
Okay.
You are always going to be the biggest factor in a well-built rifle. You want to show up with a match to a match with one that runs. Okay, that's a huge thing. Is reliability.
And one that runs well and is accurate.
Yep.
Okay.
A gun that runs but is not accurate doesn't do you any good.
So do you run PRS matches in teams or do you do it individually? How do you do this?
It's individually. The scores are individually, but you're squatted. So you'll have 10 to 15 guys or shooters in your squad, somewhere around in that, depending on how big the match is. And it's an individual score, but You have
It's not like a two-man team working together.
They have some matches like that,
Okay.
and those are a lot of fun. If you're looking to kind of expand in shooting, those are a ton of fun. I've done a couple team matches, and it gets really good times.
Yeah.
They can be frustrating, but if you and your partner can communicate and just have, remember it's fun. Not
It's a team, man.
Yeah, it's
You
a
gotta
team thing, and
communicate.
it's all about having fun and shooting. You'll have a good time in those. Back to the rifle. So everything accuracy-wise starts with the barrel. You can take accuracy away from a barrel. You cannot add accuracy to a gun that has a bad barrel in it. So barrel is the heart of the gun, and when it comes to accuracy. I run T-Box Barrels. It's a small boutique barrel manufacturer out of North Carolina. It's real tiny shop, but they build the best gas gun barrels that I've been able to find. Tested a bunch of them early on in the company when I started this business, and played with trying to find that gun. That barrel that's going to consistently be a sub-half MOA barrel and just hammer. And T-Box was the only one that fit the bill for me. So that's why I run them. Great group of guys. Awesome people to deal with. They've become real good friends. They shoot the matches with us too. So, it's a good time hanging out with all of them. So once you get done, once you get that barrel knocked out and you're like, man, I've got a hammer and barrel. Rest of the gun does matter. One of the big difference between the bolt gun side to the gas gun side is a gas gun is a system. The whole from here to back there matters. You can definitely take accuracy away from a really, really good barrel by screwing something up back in this area. So
Back to the operator.
well, operator, but in the gun build too.
Right.
A challenge for ARs is rigidity.
Yes.
Okay.
So one of the points is right here where your forend meets your upper receiver. You have to have meat and rigidity there because that barrel ties in right here, and anytime you put input at this, we'll call it a joint for lack of better words. Anytime you put input
chamber
down
meets the
here,
barrel.
it's got leverage on this joint. Well, that's right there where your barrel's tying in. So if you don't have good meat and rigidity right there, then you'll start getting flex and deflection out here, and that's going to be very frustrating with your accuracy.
So would you want the chamber and the barrel to be one piece?
You try to make them you try to make the upper and the barrel one piece as
Okay.
much as you can. There's
As
a couple
much as possible.
Yeah, there's a couple different ways to do it. There's about 3 or 4 different ways that you can do that.
Yeah.
Pick the way and kind of do it. It works. And then this handguard, like I use the arrow enhanced uppers. And the reason I use the arrow enhanced uppers is because the handguard mounts to a part of the upper, not to the barrel nut. So when I put input, just like Chase was saying, into this handguard on a barricade, whatever bad idea fairy the match director comes up with, basically, I don't have that 3 MOA of shift. So back to when I started this company, I started testing things. And your average barrel nut system of barrel nut, handguard clamps onto that barrel nut, I was seeing up to 3 MOA of shift when I was putting input into this, doing like bloated bipods, or locking or getting on a barricade and putting some pressure up here. And I would see somewhere between like a 1.5 to 3 MOA of point of impact shift.
Wow.
When I found this handguard or this upper system, and there's a couple different companies that make the same type of upper system, got down to like the biggest I saw was about a 0.5 MOA of shift. So that comes into that rigidity type thing and there's a lot more meat in there, so you can run these longer, heavier barrels. Like this is a 24-inch SPR profile. The barrel weighs somewhere right around 5.2 pounds. Just the barrel. The whole gun decked out with everything on it. 18 and a half, 19 pound range. which seems like a lot to lug around, but once you kind of get used to it, you can move it around just as easy as my little trainer gun's little 223. It's 12 pounds. And I can roll them both around just about the same.
A lot of people think you want something light just because it's a rifle.
Yep.
You don't want to lug around something real heavy, but in PRS matches, you want that heavier barrel or heavier gun. So that way, because you're, like you said, back to my question earlier, if you're working in teams, I mean, you're obviously spotting for yourself, so that recoil mitigation and be able to get back on target is key.
Being able to catch your trace, seeing your hits
Watching
and your
everything
misses.
yourself,
You can see all that stuff.
And with a gas gun, you've got so much more moving mass.
Yeah.
With that bolt carrier group, and
It's not like a bolt gun.
and your buffer. Yes, you've got so much more moving mass that's doing it on its own impingement, that you can't break that shot and then wait until you've seen it and then decide to run the bolt. So that weight and stability is even more important. So I started out shooting a 5.56 in the precision rifle stuff, and did fairly well, and thought, well, I'm just going to jump over to open gun. I run this 5.56. I ended up 6th in the national standings, right behind our friend Ash Hess. And thought, man, I got this down. I'm gonna jump over to open gun. It took me a year to figure out what I wanted in an open gun. Switching from 5.56 to a large frame gun was not as easy as I thought it would be, and as people may have led me to believe it would be, because you're more recoil, you're more moving parts. And how much more important the balance and everything of the stability of the gun. You can get away with more. I don't know, maybe I've got errors, I've got flaws in my fundamentals, and I was getting away with them more on that 5.56 gun than I was on the large frame.
You can get away a lot more on the small frame guns with positional wise of not having the body the way that it should be on the small frames than you do the big frames, just due to. And then if you get a large frame that's not necessarily set up perfect, gas system wise and stuff like that, you kind of get a little bit more recoil out of that gun than what you probably should. So this is my personal gun. And I have 308s, I've got 6.5 Grendel marksman lights, I've got 223 marksman. This gun, the only gun that I have that recoils any less than this is my 223. And it's a very small margin because of the gas system.
A lot.
Yeah. The gas system, the weight of the gun, how the gun balances, it recoils really, really light. And that helps, shooting a little 6mm really fast, but have the right gas system on there, and it helps. It's a big game changer going with all that stuff and having the entire system tuned correctly. But Jace was just talking about the recoiling or moving mass, and that's one of the besides safety. It's when I told you just leave this out because I want to talk about the bolt carriers. Perfect. So in my marksman line of rifles, I run the low mass carriers. One, have less reciprocating mass. If you have less reciprocating mass, that drops your recoil down, because you have a recoil impulse of going back, and you have a recoil impulse of going forward. Well, the heavier that is, the more gun movement you're going to get out, the more recoil you're going to have. Also, and this is a JP low mass carrier, really good carrier. The JP did some different engineering stuff on their carriers to where it helps with more consistent lockup shot to shot, which is, accuracy is nothing more than consistency.
Right.
The more you can do something the exact same, the more accurate it's going to be. So that helps a lot. The face of the bolt carrier is completely trued out and it's completely flush, so that helps with lockup. And then in the back end of that tube is the JP silent capture spring. that helps with the smoothness of operation, recoil reduction, but it also stays in contact with the back end of that bolt carrier. It drives it into lockup shot to shot instead of slingshotting it that last little, about that much, into lockup. So that helps with consistency. And when I was testing everything, started playing that game of buffer, spring, shoot a group, JP silent capture, shoot a group, and see what happened. And kind of did that on the range a few times with not only my guns, but other people. You know, hey man, let me toss this into your gun real quick. See, you know, shoot a 3-shot group with the JP. See if there's any difference. Because I liked them, but I wanted to make sure that there was some added into accuracy and performance besides just smoothness of operation and recoil reduction. And there was. Saw definitely some tighter groups happen out of it, which was nice. So, you know, a lot of people look at triggers as, I want the lightest trigger I can get. Or, you know, and I agree with them, you know, light trigger does matter. But there's more to a light trigger in an AR than, or more that goes into a trigger than just being lightweight in an AR platform. They look at it from the bolt gun side of, get a light trigger, it's good to go. Well, there's a lot of mechanical moving parts in the AR side versus what's in the bolt gun side. So, you want to cover on that, Jace?
Lock time's important. So you don't, the longer you have to wait between you deciding to actuate that trigger to your finger conducting it, to it happening, to that primary ignition, to that bullet leaving the barrel.
There's a lot of factors that go into this.
Yes.
That's a
When
lot.
I think about that, I think about a lot of different factors.
That's a lot of things that just happen. And the longer it takes that to happen, the more that reticle can move off of your intended point of aim. And so that's important. Man, I played with a lot of triggers. And a lot of AR triggers, especially like your cassette triggers,
or drop-in.
Or your drop-in triggers. Everything's a give and take. I had an old economics teacher that said 10 staffel. There is no such thing as a free lunch. I have found that to be true in the rifle world overall. If you get something somewhere, you probably pay for it somewhere else.
Right.
To chase a really light trigger in an AR, you're probably going to have to lighten those hammer springs. You know, in most systems. And if you do that, then you get a little longer lockup time, or you're a little longer lock time, or in an AR, because it has that floating firing pin, you want to run a little harder primer.
I feel like people typically will want a lighter trigger because they're worried about operator error, and if they don't pull that trigger properly, they're not going to be as consistent.
You just got to break it clean.
Yeah. And it's all about consistency, right?
Yeah.
So,
And like what he's talking about, hammer strength.
right.
You know, if you don't have, you know, when you start getting into the drop-in triggers, so like you said, you know, when you start dropping that weight down, a lot of times they do that by weakening the hammer springs and the trigger springs. Well, that now is going to eventually cause malfunctions in the gun of like primer strikes.
Right.
So my triggers that I run, if you want a single stage, it's a Hyperfire Hyper Touch series trigger. I like the Eclipse. That's my trigger to go with. Has a nickel boron coating on there, so it's nice and smooth.
Is that typically what you put in your guns?
Yes, unless someone asks for a 2-stage trigger, and I'll get touched on that here in just a second. But the Hyperfire, it has 30% more hammer strength than a mil-spec trigger, which is kind of that standard in the market of hammer strength is that mil-spec. So you're going to set a primer off every time. I've never had a
Without fail.
Yeah, I mean, I let it go on my finger, on my thumb right here one time, and I bruised my thumb.
Nice.
So yeah, and lockup time, it has the fastest AR trigger lockup time on the market right now. But if you're wanting a 2-stage, no one beats a Geisley. Hands down. Like, Geisley is the best two-stage trigger on the market right now. And they're super smooth. The only thing with Geisley is you got to make sure that you kind of keep your points of contact or your wear points on that trigger lubed from time to time. And you should with any AR trigger.
I feel like you should with any kind of precision rifle.
Yeah, I mean, lube your disconnectors and stuff like that, on your hammer and your trigger, and just anytime you got metal on metal, a little bit of oil doesn't hurt anything.
Right.
So, the Geisleys are top notch when it comes to a two-stage. Single stage, the Hyperfires beat them, in my personal opinion. But the two-stage, the Geisley wins. And then
I was a high-speed national match fan for a while. Our buddy Jeff runs the Super Dynamic Enhanced, and his is really broke in. That may be one of the best I've ever felt. I know he put a lot of work into breaking his in like that, but
that's just a lot of dry firing and range time is what that is.
There's probably a lot of trigger pulls on that trigger, but it has really good wall so that you can prep that trigger, and then that last break is just, it's like glass, but you feel it, so you have a consistent point to bring it to, and then that last little bit is all it takes to set it off, and that alone makes a good trigger.
Right.
As long as you don't feel like you're crunching through a mile of broken glass or whatever, if you have a real light, consistent wall to bring it to, and then you break, that to me is a good two-stage.
Yeah, I agree. That matters. On the two stages, if you pull it, you should be able to find that wall.
Yeah.
If you can, if you just can
every time.
Yeah, if you can pull right through that wall and never I don't know where it was, that's not a good trigger.
Yeah.
Or you need to lube it, because I've seen some of the Geisleys when they're really, really dry and never had any lube put on them. I'm not really sure where that wall's at, but as soon as you put a little bit of oil on there, man, that wall just magically appears. So, and then gas system tuning. I run adjustable gas blocks on all my guns. I look at the gas system and the gas port and the gas block as accelerator for your car. When you get in your car, you don't put it to the floor and drive to work. You run enough fuel or right amount of throttle to get you to work.
Right.
Well, why are we running all of our gas guns
full throttle?
Run exactly what your gun needs to run, especially in today's world, because you start getting into the 223, 5.56 game, 6.5 Creed, 6.5 Grendels, 308s. There's so much ammo out there for them. Everything from little bitty light grain bullets to the heavies. And you have cheap ammo, you've got match ammo, you've got hunting ammo. There's all types of different powders, burn rates, the grain weight of bullet, all that stuff matters. Muzzle velocities. So companies are having to put more or a larger gas port in there so that the gun will run all this stuff. Well, if it'll run these little 95 grainers I need to also run these 150 grainers. Well, that's where that's where the adjustable gas block comes in, because I can tune that down to what my loader is requiring at the time.
It does require a little more effort from the gun owner, to tune it, and it requires a little more maintenance. You might want to throw a little curl on that screw, turn it in or out a couple times every, 500 rounds or 300 rounds or whatever. And
I do mine every 1,500, and that's because that's when I'm changing the barrel out. No, so the Arca Handguard is the first company to put the Arca on the AR-10. AR-15s will be coming out. There's a couple other companies that.
So the first company to ever put Arca Handguards on an AR-10 platform is you.
Yes.
Sgt of Arms.
Yep. Had the idea, came up with it late one night, and started researching and designing and stuff like that, and took a little bit. So didn't end up being the first one to market with the AR-15s, but was the first one to do the AR-10s. And Arca is really nice for a couple different reasons. One, you get that flat base, so we'll talk about this little gem right here in the next segment, but it sits on that bag really nice. You get a nice flat surface to ride your bags. If you're not running a bag, say you're shooting a, like Chase just said, a deer blind.
I carry my bag to the deer blind.
I do too, but now you have a flat surface instead of a rolling surface on most handguards to ride window seals. Whatever you're shooting off of it, flat surface really works a lot better. And then one of the really cool things about it, the Arca bipod. I can slide that bipod anywhere I want to fit on any type of shooting platform that I have. Also, tripod work. So if you're a varmint hunter,
A lot of tripods come with Arca mounts.
Yep. It clamps right into tripods. I've been getting a lot of tips.
Actually, what it was designed for. It's a camera, like a fancy camera mount system. For your high-end camera stuff is what that particular dovetail was designed for.
Yeah.
And so I like to run a plate. I call it a cheater plate, or the one that I made. I kind of nicknamed it the SOB cop as a joke.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah. So it's an acronym for stable on bags, clamp on plate. So
Sure it is.
yeah, that's exactly what it is.
All right, son of a bitch.
I carry my it's a game changer
Oh,
now. Yeah, that clamp on plate, and it just gives you. It clamps
Son of a
on there
bitch.
really easy and gives you a lot more surface area. So that when I slap that on that bag, that it stays there. And I've used several different kinds of bags. The mini fortune cookie, I ran it for a long time. I've switched over to the game changer. I've tried a lot of different stuff. And we were talking about this earlier. I like to see what works and what doesn't, and if I can figure out why. I'm shooting for Sgt of Arms now, but I just traded a JP LRP 07 that the build sheet on it put it at like $4,100, and I had all kinds of people ask me, "Why would you do that? Why would you do that?" It didn't fit me. Like we were talking about earlier on the balance and the stability, the gun was super accurate, super precise. Like it's one of the most precise gassers I've ever handled until I got into the Sgt of Arms, and it's hard for me to tell a difference on paper at like 100 yards. My groups looked really similar, flipping back from one to the other. But that gun positionally brought out some kind of flaw in my shooting. Or there was some kind of quirk. It never did fit me. And it would only rear its head occasionally. Like I'd hit one position, I'd be fine. I'd be really stable. I'd be getting on my hits. I'd move. I'd hit another position, maybe off a barrel or some high kneeling or some flimsy barricade or something, and I wouldn't be able to hit anything. And then I'd move again to another position, and it'd be fine all over again. And I struggled with that for a long time. And that's what brought up the balance and the trigger for me. I think that was where me and that gun didn't jive. You'll never hear me talk bad about the guns. They're well known. They're
well-built guns.
They're well-built guns. As you can see, he's using several JP parts in his guns. They did a lot of engineering and stuff that was good. That particular one just didn't fit me. So there's a little bit of finding what works for you. You've got to get out there and test it and see, what works for you. I ask a lot of them, but we were having this conversation the other night. I don't care if I pay 10 grand for the gun. If I don't shoot it well, that is the last determining factor.
Well, and I think, that really breaking into that realm of things, like we don't ever want to talk bad about any other creator or builder or whatever. The biggest thing is it's back to military terms is, it's operator preference. What you want to do and what you want to use it for.
Yeah.
And so, good segment change. Let's go into match gear. Let's talk about what you guys use for match gear.
Let's put the gun up and we'll
pull out the gun away.
Pull out some toys here.
All right, let's talk about the gear that you guys use on a PRS match.
So basically, I just dump my range bag. Like you grab my range bag.
This is a small range bag.
I don't need much.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
And
this is part 7.
Yeah.
So 7 items in a range bag for a PRS match, right here.
So there is technically 8 because I do have a backup mag at all times. So I usually have at least two mags with me.
9 if you separate the two.
9 if you separate the two. I started off like most people with trying to buy every piece of gear that I could possibly get my hands on because I thought that was going to make me better.
Everybody's a geardo.
Exactly. And what I found out real fast was gear doesn't always make you better. It can help, but you're still limited by you.
You found out fast?
Yeah.
It took me forever.
That makes about the most amount of sense that I could ever think about.
No, I'll listen to other people.
Yeah.
They grab something like, why do you have this? I don't know. This is stupid. Throw away. Okay, cool. Got it. So
you got to be careful with that, though. Some people don't know what the hell they're talking about.
that is true, but I listen to the right people.
Yeah.
People that are shooting
listen
way better.
to the right people.
Yeah. So I have basically 2 items that, besides Good Ear Pro. Good Ear Pro is a necessity, something that's comfortable that you can wear all day, whether it's muffs, inner ear, whatever, because these things are loud, you're going to, don't lose your hearing. So I wear contact peltors, great muffs, comfortable. But besides that, if I have these items right here, I can shoot a match. Magazine, of course, and a mag holder. The mag holder just makes it convenient to be on your hip. I can shove a mag in my pocket if I need to. The Armageddon Gear Game Changer. It's a pint size heavy fill wax game changer. I've ran, just like Chase was saying, I ran the fortune cookies, the mini fortune cookies, the original game changer, the wax large game changer with the lighter fill in it, and this is the game changer that I have settled on. The bag that I've settled on, it's more stable than anything that I've played with for myself. Some people will disagree with me. They think that this is better than that. It's a personal thing. Works as a front bag, rear bag, whatever. This is the only bag that I run in matches. You want to touch on the Kestrel?
Ooh, Kestrels.
Yeah. So that's a lot of the mystique to the long range and precision rifle is ballistics.
Makes everything easy.
And these systems, when you get into the Kestrel that have the applied ballistics in them, it's an all-in-one unit. I would say it helps to have somebody show you how to use it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things you can do on there that...
I probably went a year, maybe a little over a year, that I had one, and it is the top-of-the-line model. It was a 5700 Elite with a Bluetooth and it had all the bells and whistles. They need to put out like a for dummies book on their thing. No, I had one.
Only that would make everything easy.
I had one a long time and probably wasn't getting the most out of it. my backup to that is the Geo Ballistics. Guy named Joe over here, pretty local to us. He owns that company, and I've shot with him at a couple of matches, and that's, for me, for a long time, that was the easy button. It's a really simple to use, really intuitive program. I would run it off my iPhone, and I've kind of checked them back and forth against each other. Usually they're within a tenth of a mil. Most of the times I'm not going to see a tenth of a mil. That's pretty tight for my shooting. I'm not that great. So
I know you finished fourth in the last match, so
Not a 91. Just
Well,
not that great.
you know, you get lucky. A blind hog finds an acorn every once in a while.
Okay. Yeah,
But you need something that will give you some environmentals and something that is going to give you good ballistics. You know, your drop is pretty well a constant. Once you get it figured out, it changes with your density altitude a little bit. Heavy wind shear from this way or that way or whatever coming up a hill can affect it to some degree. This system will take care of all that. So I highly suggest getting, something that gives you good data. You got to have good data going into a match. You want to be sure of your data. You want to have it trued up, confirmed. Long time ago, I shot that rifle every 50 yards, backing up. And I shot it on a tall target, and I wrote down what it did. And then I had a little bit of an idea of how, the weather would affect it. And I would kind of swag, take a scientific wild ass guess off of what I had in my
where's he
book.
going with this swag at? That East Texas coming out right there.
That's a trademark saying right there.
I'd swag it,
Holy
buddy.
shit. That's a fucking trademark saying right there.
But I'd write it down in my book, and I'd carry that
man.
with me. And then, I had a little bit of an idea of how weather would affect it, and take an educated guess from there. And I got away with it, probably about as often as I didn't. But these are way more accurate.
That's ballistics for dummies.
Yeah.
Like, literally, the more accurate info you put into it, the better it is.
Right.
Now,
Good data in, good data
yes,
out.
Right.
Yeah.
and there's some other things you can do in there, like truing, truing muzzle velocity, truing BC, and that kind of gets in a little bit more in depth into running the Kestrel. But it's, if I have this and this, I can, in a magazine, of course, in a gun, I can forget anything else out there, and I can shoot a match.
Well, and this.
Well, yeah, you're a pro.
Don't want to go deaf.
No, but
Too late.
Yeah.
there is some
Fair that.
handy items that I like to have in my match bag. One of them, a little QB arm sleeve. There's multiple, some people run QB ones. Some people have a little data card on the side of their gun, which the data card on the side of the gun's a really handy thing.
That's my preference.
Yeah, me too. I just haven't wanted to spend the money on one yet, is what that comes down to.
I've put masking tape all over the gun and wrote it down if I had to,
This, being able to write down, because on a stage, there may be 4 or 5 targets, 6 targets at 6, different yardages. Well, I need to write all that dope down. So I know, all right, target 1, I'm at this, target 2, I'm at this, blah, 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 so on and so forth. So that helps with just, put on my left arm, and as I'm shooting, just kind of keep it like this, and I can just look over, read it, and go. So that helps a bunch with that aspect. Or like I said, the data cards on the side of the gun, you can just, if you shoot both eyes open, you just kind of focus left a little bit, and it's right there.
So for those of the listeners that don't really know a lot about PRS competitions, when you go into a match, do you know the distances that you're going to be shooting prior to actually shooting the match?
Usually
range
on Friday is usually sign-in day for the match, and you will get your match book that day.
Okay.
A lot of times as you leave the range.
Yeah. Now, that being said, I'll kind of look over the match book the night before. I really won't get too in depth into it. Just kind of see what's in there. I just put it away. I used to go through and study the match book and write down stuff, and all it did was jack me up. I take it stage.
Worried about it.
Yeah, I take it stage by stage.
Right.
I'm gonna worry about this stage. When I leave this stage, that stage is behind me. I don't worry about it anymore. It keeps me having fun. It kind of goes back into, if you watch football, when a quarterback throws an interception, the commentators always say that he needs to have amnesia. Same thing with shooting. You have a bad stage, you need to forget about that stage. You can't do anything about it. It's done. It's over.
Don't drag it with you all day.
Move on to the next stage.
Exactly. So, that's why I don't go over match books. I don't, and also if you go through and you start writing your dope down in the match book, well, you may have like he was talking about earlier, the DA, your density altitude, maybe X. Tomorrow morning when you're shooting, it may be Y. And you may be 1,500 feet off on your DA, and your dope's off. So it doesn't do you any good to sit there and write down all your data, or as the temp changes and all that stuff throughout the day, it can change your data. So I get done shooting one stage. If I've got time, I'll start prepping for the next stage. I'll look at my numbers, write things down, look at what's going to happen, load my mag, get everything ready, get to the next stage, and kind of just do a quick double check on everything to make sure, hey, this is the right distances, because that does happen. There are, match directors are human, and there are some things that happen with bad distances. But other than that, no, I don't really dive deep into the match books the night before.
I have had that bite me too. I tell a little story. I was shooting down at Lone Star one time. I was shooting a big match, and I was lucky enough to squad with Tim Milkovich. He's one of my heroes.
I thought I was one of your heroes.
I've got several. I've got several.
I'll get on this list.
Yeah, but
You don't want to know.
Damn it.
that some gun can shoot, and he can teach it too. But anyway, we were there, and in this particular match, we shot the first day. We shot 10 stages, and I think they gave us maybe 100 seconds to shoot them. And then the second day, which is rare, but we shot the same 10 stages, little different order, and they cut our part time down significantly. Like you had, I don't know, whatever it was, 90 seconds or 60 seconds in the stage instead of the 100 or 120 it had been the day before. So you had to do the same thing, you just had to do it faster. Well, there was a long range stage that had 4 or 5 targets, kind of varying in distance from right around 1,000 to about 1,100. And you shot it up off a tower, stack of Connex boxes. And the first day I had shot it pretty well. I had got, 60 or 70% of my hits or whatever, just kind of about where everybody else was shooting. And I thought, well, man, I'm in a good squad. These guys can really shoot. If I'm hanging in there, that's okay. We came back and shot that same stage the second day. And I thought, I'm not changing a thing. That was a good stage for me. I was happy with it. I'm not changing a thing. I had good dope. I got up there and I couldn't hit anything. I finally figured out where I was missing, came up and got 2 or 3 hits, and I walked off hanging my head. And Tim caught me on the way out, and he's like, and I asked him, I said, man, what happened? I shot that fine yesterday. And he kind of looked up at the sky, and he said, did you see that storm rolling in? I was like, yeah, it rained on us a little earlier. It's been rolling in. He's like, did you check your DA? No. He said, well, I was watching your misses. They were all about a mil low at the beginning till you figured it out. He said, run your numbers, rerun your DA. So I reran my numbers, Kestrel or whatever, and it pretty much said, hey, you're going to be a mil low dummy. And I mean, it was right. It was right on the, and that was just that storm rolling in. And it was same course of fire, same location. The only thing that had changed was weather. When we shot it in the afternoon before, it was bright, sunny, warm outside. And today, it's overcast. Everything had settled. It got that real calm, as the storm's rolling in.
You didn't reset your Kestrel.
And I did not reset. I did not reset mentally.
And I've had to learn that the hard way myself of not resetting, not checking, not updating my weather, and that's why I do my data for every stage right before I shoot the stage.
So, in all seriousness, you can either edit this part out of the video of me talking to you about this right now. When you're shooting PRS matches, are you shooting steel or paper?
Steel.
Okay.
It's all steel target. Now, occasionally you'll get
a couple paper stages.
Yeah, you'll get some like papers targets, groupings at like 100 yards, dot drills at 100 yards.
It's not like you're trying to guess where your impacts are. You can hear your impacts.
Oh yeah, most of the time.
Okay.
You start pushing some small bullets.
You're not trying to get groups at 1,000 yards.
No, it's an impact and move. It's an
Okay.
impact. Yeah, you're looking for an impact on target, and that's it.
That's more so a personal question for me.
Yeah.
Maybe two.
On getting into PRS match. Let's get into a little bit of a match prep and talk about that a little bit. What do you guys do to prepare for a match instead of just a stage?
So my first thing that I do for match prep, I clean my gun, barrel, bolt carrier group, get all that crap from the last match out of there if it's still in there. Hopefully I cleaned it after the match. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Just that would be good.
Right.
But get my ammo loaded, and then I test my ammo. Make sure I have my load developed
Do all your
already.
hand loads?
Yeah. Just kind of make sure nothing's changed. Don't shoot a whole bunch of it. Just shoot decent. A couple rounds. Enough to get a couple decent groups, and get a good zero. Chronograph my load. See what my feet per second is. I know I'm on zero in chrono before the.
I'm sorry.
We're gonna show the 1980s chrono.
This is a perfect time for a plug.
Yeah.
It's a perfect time for a plug. Scott wants us to plug his chrono from 1980. This is what he carries in his range bag.
Oh,
Hey, there's a company down in Austin, Texas called Magneto Speed.
yeah. Look them up.
Look them up.
Let's not use.
Oh, that's already too many parts.
I mean,
Shut down. Make the whole range cold. Shut down the line.
hold on. Scott's got a chrono in his match load.
Got to
Hold
close
on.
his load.
Yeah. Oh wait, we got
One more
We
beat.
got one more. All right.
Set it all up, and let's hope and pray that a cloud doesn't come out and skew all our numbers, or
Or that you don't shoot the
I
chrono.
think you don't shoot the angle of the dangle's all wrong.
Yeah, I've definitely seen more of those shot than anything else.
That's exactly what they deserve. That's it.
Yeah.
If you really want to know the truth about it.
I mean, back when they,
When that's all you have.
yeah, they were good chronos, but today, there's so much better stuff out there.
So basically, what he's saying is that shit has gotten better.
Yeah. Everything evolves.
So if we have any
$100.
antique gun guys out there that are listening, Scott will be more than happy to sell you his antique chrono.
For the happy price of $100.
It is an antique.
Scott,
Is
you
there-
want to come on camera for this?
Is there a road show coming around?
Oh, shit.
You ever make fun of a spotting scope too?
Yeah.
Probably.
We'd be glad to.
Let me see that thing. Come on. Let's see this spotty.
I mean, are we looking at the moon? Are we looking at a target, or what are we doing here?
I think I see the Big Dipper.
I don't see nothing. Yep, that's pretty
Bad
shit.
thing is my binos have better glasses.
Oh, no doubt.
All right.
So now that we're
back to real shit.
yeah, not antique stuff.
Not Scott's $100 chrono.
Chrono, getting a good load data or getting your good data for your Kestrel. Yes, you will check 0 and chrono the date, the Friday before the match, but I still like to do it. And then get some practice in, whether it's live fire or dry fire.
Yeah.
I'll do. I usually try to load about an extra 70 to 80 rounds over what the match is calling for. And I'll probably shoot somewhere right around 60 of those for practice between, chrono, 0, and practice. And then the rest of my stuff is dry fire practice. I do it at the house. Got a little thing set up. And I grab chairs and step stools and whatnot to just
I've scraped up all the wife's furniture dry firing off of it.
Don't do that.
This is what not to do.
Yeah, that's what not to do.
Yeah.
But
If you don't want to have a happy wife.
yeah, if you want to go shoot the match, don't go scraping up the wife's furniture.
Too late. I'm with Eric on this. I shoot a few. I want to make sure that I have a good 0. I want to make sure that I have good data to put in. I'm going to chrono. Ryan down at Magneto Speed is a friend of mine. And so, yes, I use the Magneto Speed. It gives really, really solid velocity data. I want a good muzzle velocity. Benefits are you also don't have to shut down the line to get out there and set it up. You can do it right there on the gun. If you get the Sporter, the whole thing fits in a little bitty old pouch you can throw in your pack or whatever. It's really portable, pretty robust. So you need good data to put in. As a matter of fact, this last match, I didn't even shoot hand loads. I shot factory ammo. A mistake
you still
that
shot fourth.
it worked out okay. The gun liked it. I made sure it ran. I made sure it gave me good groups. I shot a couple groups at 100, and I shot 1 or 2 groups at the farthest my home range will give me, which is 715. I trued my data off of that. It was really close anyway. Had good chrono numbers. A lot of people shooting factory ammo will trust what that box says.
Don't. Just don't.
Don't. That box.
Most of those are based off of a 200-meter 0, right?
Well, I mean, it's still going to give you muzzle.
The muzzle velocity it
right.
gives you is based off of a test barrel.
And they're not all consistent either.
Which is usually a 24-inch barrel clamped in a vise. Is
Right.
usually what a test barrel is. And so if you've got a 20 or an 18 or 22, that's going to change things a little bit.
Or just a different brand barrel.
Or just a different
lot
brand
of
barrel.
I mean,
A different lot of ammo can have some variation in it. If you're hand loading, different lots of powder can have variation in it. And so you want to put as good a numbers into your ballistic solver as you can, because good data in, good data out.
Yep. Back to making sure the gun runs. Whatever you're shooting, just making sure that gun is squared away. Make sure it's going to be reliable for the match, because you're going to put it through its paces. It doesn't matter if you're shooting a bolt gun style match, a gas gun style match, whatever, your gun's going to get abused in that match. And knowing that, hey, this gun's going to run, it's going to do what I need it to do, it likes this ammo, it feeds this ammo, that's a big thing, because if you have gun malfunctions, that pretty much ruins your match.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it'll get in your head.
Yep.
And you want to eliminate those mental errors. Even small malfunctions, and we've all had them. If you're questioning how it's going to run or how your ammo's going. If you're questioning any of that, you want to eliminate all that, and so you can go into your stage with a clear mind. You don't want to have any. I tell you, I've done stuff as little as misplace something in the truck. I'm throwing all my gear in the back of the truck and misplace my Kestrel or something, a pretty important piece of equipment. And if I'm thinking about that in the back of my head when I'm trying to get ready for that stage or trying to shoot that stage, it will not go well.
Being organized, that's before every match I rip my entire range bag down and put everything where, make sure everything's where it needs to be. I know where it is. And then when I pull it out, it goes right back in that spot. So that I'm not having that issue of getting mine screwed over the whole thing of, crap, where did this go? Where did that go? I know, open this pocket, boom, there it is. And that helps a lot.
Is developing a system. And I'm not really organized in a lot of other things in my life. But that is one of them that I put a little extra effort into being organized, because I know how fragile my mental game is, how easily that can be screwed up, and I want to eliminate as much of that as I can. Yep. We talked about dry firing a little bit. I use a DFAT system since I shoot a lot of magnified optics. And it's a little lens that goes in your scope cap and clips on, and it allows you to adjust your parallax and your focus, everything to like 11 to 15 feet or somewhere in there. 12 feet, 13 feet. Like a regular room distance, so that you can hang up a picture with some targets on it or whatever, little scale targets.
Okay. And
then you can be practicing right in a living room or a bedroom, or I've got it out in my little man cave.
I've got one upstairs in my reloading room set up.
Yeah, and get you some dry fire in, because that counts for a lot.
Right.
Dry fire is underrated.
Making sure that fundamentals are tuned in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's just that, and you just kind of knock that rust off,
Right.
So the October gas gun match that we shot together, I finished seventh. Finished seventh in that match, and I got a little bit of practice in. Did my normal workup for a match, for that match. This last one we just shot, I was so busy traveling for SHOT Show and gun shows and getting orders out and stuff like that with the business that I didn't get that prep time, and I finished 29th. So just that little bit of prep work and knocking that rust off and trying, just getting that efficiency and getting back into the swing of things, it happened. It changed a lot for me. Going from 7th to 29th, that's 22 spots, and
it's a big difference.
Yeah, and usually Chase and I, when we shoot a match, we're relatively close to each other, unless one of us just has a bad off day. Mm-hmm. He'll win some, I'll win some. I think we're probably about 50-50 at this point.
Pretty close.
It's you finished 4th. I should have been right there with him if I'd have done what I normally do for a match, but I didn't have the work and stuff like that got in the way, so I paid for it.
It is a very perishable skill.
Yeah, that really breaks down to really what goes into preparing for a match, and it shows you that, hey, if I don't do what I need to do, you're gonna pay for it really hard on those scorecards.
Yeah.
So you guys have anything else you want to touch on for match prep or stage prep or anything like that?
No,
not really.
I think do another one of these. We'll get a little bit more deeper into.
We're obviously gonna.
Shooting.
This is a big rabbit hole kind of topic to talk about for PRS, and I think we have a couple more episodes we can get into with topics and really dive into it for the people that want to learn about PRS. So I think we touched on a lot of topics that will really help the listeners, and you guys did great. It's awesome to have you guys here, and I appreciate you guys coming all this way and having some drinks with me and showing me what you guys do and what Sgt of Arms is all about. So I think this was very informative, especially for me and the listeners. So I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us on, man. I appreciate
bet.
it.
Absolutely.
Glad to do it.
Yeah.
We'll do it again.
Yes, sir.
Bet.
So.
Have a good one.